The great chamber of the Galactic Council was filled with light from 1,000 stars. Representatives from 47 species sat in their seats, ranged in a massive circle that rose up like the inside of a bowl. At the center stood a single platform where speakers could address the entire assembly. Today the chamber was tense. Today, they would decide the fate of the galaxy. Ambassador Park Gina stood near the human delegation's seats, her hands folded in front of her. She was a small woman with gray hair and calm eyes. She had served Earth for 30 years, and she had learned to read the mood of alien species the way a farmer reads the sky. Right now, the mood was fear. The Draven were coming. Everyone knew it. The question was what to do about it. High Arbiter Varan, the ancient leader of the council, raised one of his forearms. The chamber fell silent. His species, the Telvor, had led the council for 300 years. They were wise, they were powerful, and they believed they knew best. The Draven Collective approaches, Varan said, his voice deep and slow. Their fleet numbers over 4,000 ships. Their weapons are far beyond anything we have seen. We must decide how to respond. Park Gina stepped forward onto the central platform. She felt the eyes of 100 alien species on her. High Arbiter, honored representatives, she began. Humanity proposes a unified response. We suggest combining all of our fleets under a single joint command. We should share our technology freely. We should train together and fight together. Only by standing as one can we hope to survive. Whispers spread through the chamber. Some of the alien delegates looked interested. Others looked angry. Ambassador Park Gina waited. A tall, insect-like being rose from the Mach-3 section. This was Elder Korvath, one of the most respected voices in the council. The human speaks of unity, he said, clicking his mandibles. But what she really wants is power. Humans have been part of this council for only 200 years. They are children compared to us. Their history is filled with war and violence. Now they want us to give them command of our ships? Park Gina kept her face calm. We are not asking for command. We are asking for partnership. Partnership. Another delegate spoke, a being made of living crystal from the Orithy system. Your species nearly destroyed itself with nuclear weapons before you even left your planet. You fight among yourselves constantly. You are unpredictable and dangerous. We cannot trust our survival to such a species. Dr. Yoon Murray, who sat behind Ambassador Park, felt her heart sink. She was the chief science officer of the human delegation. She had spent her whole life studying alien cultures, trying to build bridges between species. Now she watched those bridges burn. High Arbiter. Varan raised his hand again. The Mach-3 delegation has made a proposal, he said. They suggest that humans be excluded from all strategic planning. Humans would serve only in support roles, away from the fighting. This would allow the more experienced species to handle the defense. Park Gina felt like she had been struck. She looked at Voran, hoping to see some sign that he disagreed with this plan, but his face showed nothing. A vote will be held, Varan continued. All in favor of excluding humanity from strategic operations? Lights began to glow across the chamber as delegates cast their votes. Park Gina watched the count rise. 30, 35, 38. The motion passed. 38-9, far away aboard the Earthship Horizon. Admiral Kim Do-eun watched the vote through a quantum link. He was a large man with a weathered face and hands that had seen many battles. He said nothing. He simply watched. In the council chamber, silence fell. Everyone waited to see what the humans would do. Some expected anger. Some expected tears. Some expected threats. Park Gina took a deep breath. She looked around the chamber one last time. Then she bowed, low and respectful, to the assembled delegates. She did not say a single word. She simply turned and walked toward the exit. Dr. Yoon Murray followed her. So did the rest of the human delegation, one by one, until all of them were gone. The chamber remained silent. No one moved. High Arbiter Varan felt a strange cold feeling in his chest. He had seen many species react to defeat. He had seen rage and despair and bargaining. He had never seen a species simply leave without a word. "What does this mean?" whispered a young delegate from one of the newer species. "Why did they not argue? Why did they not fight?" Elder Corveth made a sound that might have been a laugh. "They have accepted their place. They know they are not our equals. This is for the best." But Varen was not so sure. He had lived for 3 centuries. He had seen many things, and something about the way the human ambassador had walked out, so calm and so quiet, made him deeply uneasy. On the horizon, Admiral Kim Do-en closed the video link. His second-in-command, Commander Baek Soo-young, stood beside him. She was young but sharp, with eyes that missed nothing. "Orders, sir?" she asked. The admiral stood and walked to the window. Outside, the stars burned cold and bright. "Send word to Earth," he said. "Begin the awakening." Soo-young nodded. She did not ask what that meant. She did not need to. Every human officer knew about the awakening. They had been waiting for this day for a very long time. Back in the council chamber, the delegates began to talk among themselves, already planning their defense against the Draven. They did not notice that the human seats were dark and empty. They did not wonder what the humans would do next. They had already forgotten about them. That was their first mistake. 3 weeks passed after the vote. At first, the council barely noticed. They were busy planning their defense against the Draven. They held meetings. They drew maps. They argued about strategy. But slowly, things began to go wrong. It started with small things. A medical station in the outer systems reported that their healing machines had stopped working. The machines used human software, and the software had stopped receiving updates. Then a communication relay went dark. The relay used human technology to translate between species. Without it, 3 systems could no longer talk to each other. Liaison Mira was an Orathi diplomat assigned to keep contact with the humans. She was a being of living crystal, and her body chimed softly when she moved. Now she stood in a small office on Earth's moon, facing Dr. Yoon Murray across a simple metal desk. "We need your help," Mira said. Her voice was musical but strained with worry. The medical systems, the communication relays, the navigation databases, they are all failing. Millions of lives depend on this technology. Dr. Yoon sat with her hands folded, her face calm and unreadable. "I understand your concern," she said. "However, Earth's resources are now dedicated to internal matters. We are not able to provide technical support at this time." "Internal matters?" Mira's crystal body flickered with distress. "What internal matters?" "The Draven are coming. We need to stand together." "The Council has made its position clear," Dr. Yoon replied. "Humanity is to serve and support roles only. We are not to be involved in strategic decisions. We have decided to focus on our own affairs until the Council changes its mind." Mira stared at her. "You cannot be serious. You would let billions die because of wounded pride." Dr. Yoon's expression did not change. "We would never let billions die. But the Council must learn that humanity is not a tool to be used and thrown away. When they are ready to treat us as equals, we will be here." Mira left Earth feeling more afraid than she had ever been in her life. Across the galaxy, the Council's defense efforts stumbled forward. The elder species had powerful ships, ancient and proud, but they had never truly worked together. Each species had its own way of fighting. Each commander wanted to be in charge. The planning sessions turned into arguments, and the arguments turned into delays. Meanwhile, strange reports began to reach the Council. Sensors detected massive energy signatures coming from the Sol system, where Earth orbited its star. Ships passing through the area reported seeing huge construction platforms in orbit. Cargo vessels carried strange materials into the system and never came back out. What are they building? High Arbiter Varan demanded during a council session. No one knew. The humans would not say. Every message sent to Earth received the same polite response. "We are focused on internal matters." Deep beneath Earth's surface, in a facility that had been secret for over a century, engineer Hanju worked day and night. He was a thin man with tired eyes and quick hands. He had not slept more than 4 hours a night for the past 3 weeks. He did not care. The work was too important. The facility stretched for kilometers underground. Massive machines hummed and glowed. Workers moved through the corridors like ants in a hive. And at the center of it all stood the heart of the project. 72 warships. Each one larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Kim Do-eun walked through the facility, inspecting the work. Commander Baek Soo-yeon walked beside him, her tablet filled with reports and status updates. "The last ship is almost ready," she said. "The crews are trained. The weapons are loaded. We can launch within 2 weeks." The Admiral nodded. "Good. What about the portal system?" "Engineer Han says it will be operational in 12 days. He is working around the clock." Stopped in front of the lead ship, a massive vessel of black metal and glowing blue lines. Its name was painted on the hull in silver letters, Phoenix. "She's beautiful," the Admiral said quietly. "She's a monster," Soo-yeon replied, "in the best possible way." Back on Station Oryx, High Arbiter Varan sat alone in his chambers. He held a small device that could send messages directly to Ambassador Park. Gina, on Earth. He had written and deleted the same message a dozen times. Finally, he pressed send. "Ambassador Park," the message read. "I am writing to you personally, not as High Arbiter, but as one being to another. I sense that something is happening on Earth, something important. The galaxy faces destruction. Whatever disagreements we have, surely we can set them aside for the sake of survival. Please, tell me what you are planning. Help me understand." He waited for hours. Finally, a response came. It was only 3 words. "We remember everything." Varan read the message again and again. "We remember everything." What did that mean? What did the humans remember? Every insult, every dismissal. Every time the Council had ignored them or looked down on them, he felt cold. For the first time in 300 years, he felt truly afraid. In the underground facility on Earth, Engineer Han Ju-woo made the final connection. The machine before him hummed to life, glowing with power that seemed to bend the air around it. Admiral Kim Do-eun stood beside him. "Is it ready?" the Admiral asked. Han Ju-woo smiled, exhaustion and triumph mixing on his face. 2 weeks ahead of schedule, we can open a portal anywhere in the galaxy within seconds. And the weapons? The shields? Beyond anything they have ever seen. The Council thinks they know what humans are capable of. The engineer's smile turned sharp. They have no idea. The Admiral looked at the fleet of warships waiting in their bays. 72 vessels of death and salvation, ready to wake up and change everything. "They silenced us," he said. "They thought they could push us aside and forget about us." Han Ju-woo asked, "Now they will learn why you should never silence humanity." The Admiral's eyes were hard as stone. "You unleash us." The Battle of Kethris' Prime would be remembered for 1,000 years. It would be taught in military academies across 100 worlds. Children would hear stories about it before they went to sleep. But for those who lived through it, the battle was not a story. It was fire and death and the end of everything they knew. The Draven fleet came out of deep space like a wave of darkness. 4,000 ships, each one bristling with weapons that could crack a planet open like an egg. Their hulls were black as the void between stars, and their engines glowed with sickly green light. They did not slow down. They did not send warnings. They simply attacked. The Council fleet waited at Kethris Prime, a world of 3 billion souls that stood directly in the Draven's path. 2,000 ships from 30 species formed a defensive line around the planet. It was the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. It was not enough. High Arbiter Varan commanded from the bridge of the Telvori flagship, a massive vessel that had served his people for 500 years. Around him, officers shouted reports and orders. Screens showed the battle unfolding in terrible detail. "The Mach 3 line has collapsed," an officer cried. "They have lost 12 ships. The Arathi are retreating. Their shields cannot hold against the Draven weapons. We have lost communication with the left flank. All ships destroyed." Varan gripped the arms of his command chair. He watched the Draven ships cut through his fleet like knives through water. The Council ships fought bravely, but they were not used to working together. Each species had its own tactics, its own commanders, its own way of war. They could not coordinate. They could not adapt. They could only die. "High Arbiter," his first officer said, her voice shaking. "We have lost 400 ships. If this continues, we will be destroyed within the hour. We must order a full retreat." Varan knew what retreat meant. It meant leaving Kethrus's prime and its 3 billion people to the Draven. It meant running while innocents burned. But what choice did he have? If the fleet was destroyed here, there would be nothing left to defend the rest of the galaxy. "Prepare the retreat order," he said, his voice hollow. "May the stars forgive us." And then the sky broke open. A ring of light appeared in empty space, wider than any planet. It burned with blue fire that seemed to come from another dimension. And through that ring came ships. Massive ships. Ships that made the Telvori flagship look like a toy. 72 vessels emerged from the portal. They were black as midnight, sleek and sharp, covered in glowing lines of blue energy. Their weapons hummed with power that made sensors across the battlefield scream warnings. They were nothing like any ships the galaxy had ever seen. They were human. A voice broadcast on all channels, clear and strong. "This is Admiral Kim Do-an of the Earth Defense Force. We were told our help was not wanted." There was a pause. "We disagree." The human fleet moved forward. At their head flew the Phoenix, commanded by Captain Lee Hun-woo. He was a young man with steady hands and a heart that knew no fear. He had trained for this moment his entire life. "All ships," Lee Hun-woo ordered. "Attack formation. Show them what humanity can do." The Phoenix opened fire. Beams of twisted light shot from its weapons, beams that seemed to cut through space itself. They struck a Draven warship, and the warship simply stopped existing. No explosion, no debris. It was there, and then it was not. "Dimensional shear torpedoes," whispered a Telvori officer, her eyes wide. "They have dimensional shear torpedoes. That technology should not exist for another 1,000 years." The human ships spread out across the battlefield. Their shields glowed bright, absorbing Draven weapons fire and sending it back at the attackers. Gravity lances tore enemy ships apart. Fighter squadrons launched from carrier bays, small and fast and deadly. Pilot Shin Yuna led the Ghostwing Squadron, the best fighters Earth had ever produced. Her ship danced through the chaos like a leaf on the wind. Behind her flew 20 pilots who trusted her with their lives. Ghostwing. Clear a path to the Draven command ship, came the order from Admiral Kim. "Captain Lee will handle the rest." "Understood," Yuna replied. She pushed her ship forward, weaving between enemy fire. "Ghostwing, on me. Let us show them how humans fight." They cut through the Draven defenders like fire through dry grass. Behind them, the Phoenix followed, its weapons blazing. Captain Lee Hun-woo aimed his ship directly at the heart of the Draven fleet, where the massive command vessel waited. The command vessel was the largest Draven ship, a mountain of metal and malice. It controlled the entire fleet. If it fell, the Draven would lose their coordination. "All power to forward weapons," Lee Hun-woo ordered. "Fire everything we have." The Phoenix unleashed its full power. Every weapon fired at once. The beams converged on the Draven command ship, burning through shields and armor like they were paper. For a moment, the command vessel seemed to hold. Then it cracked. Then it shattered. Then it was gone. Across the battlefield, the Draven fleet fell into chaos. Without their command ship, they could not coordinate. They began to scatter, fleeing in all directions. The human ships hunted them down one by one. On the Telvori flagship, High Arbiter Varan stared at his screens in shock. The battle had turned in minutes. The Draven were running. Kethrus Prime was saved. And humanity had done the impossible. A message came through from the human fleet. It was Commander Beek Suyan, her voice calm and professional. "High Arbiter, you have many casualties. Our medical ships are on their way to assist. We do not hold grudges against the dying." Varan could not speak. He watched as human ships moved through the wreckage, picking up survivors, putting out fires, bringing aid to those who had tried to silence them. They showed no anger. They showed no satisfaction. They simply helped. What have we done? He whispered to himself. What have we done? On the Phoenix, Captain Lee Hunwoo looked out at the stars. The Draven were beaten. The galaxy was safe, at least for now. But he knew this was not the end. It was the beginning of something new. Send a message to Earth, he told his communications officer. Tell them it is done. Tell them the silence is over. 1 week after the Battle of Kethris' Prime, the Galactic Council gathered again. But this time, everything was different. The chamber that had once buzzed with confidence and superiority was now quiet and humble. The species that had voted to silence humanity now sat in their seats with lowered eyes and heavy hearts. Ambassador Park Gina walked into the chamber. She was not alone. Behind her came Admiral Kim Do-on in his dress uniform, Dr. Yoon Murray with her calm eyes, Commander Baek Soo-yeon, Engineer Han Ju-woo, Captain Lee Hunwoo, and Pilot Shin Yuna. They walked in a line, their footsteps echoing in the silence. Park Gina stepped onto the central platform. She looked around at the assembled delegates, the beings who had dismissed her people as violent children. She remembered every insult. She remembered every closed door. She remembered the vote. High Arbiter, she said, her voice clear and strong. Honored representatives, you called this meeting? We are here, High Arbiter. Veron rose from his seat. He looked older than he had a week ago. The weight of his mistake pressed down on him like a mountain. Ambassador Park, he said, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I wish to express our gratitude for your intervention at Kethris Prime. You saved billions of lives. You saved the fleet. You saved us all. Park Gina nodded once. We did what was necessary. But we do not understand, Varan continued. Your ships, your weapons, your technology. Where did it come from? How could you have developed such things in secret? Our scientists say those weapons should not exist for another 1,000 years. Park Gina smiled, but there was no warmth in it. I think it is time you learned the truth about humanity. She gestured to Dr. Yoon Murray, who stepped forward. The scientist's voice was calm and measured as she spoke. When humanity first made contact with the galaxy, Dr. Yoon began, we were excited. We thought we had found friends among the stars. We thought we would be welcomed as equals, but we learned quickly that we were wrong. She paused, letting her words sink in. We studied the council. We studied every species. We learned your histories, your patterns, your behavior, and we saw how you treated young species. You looked down on them. You used them. You dismissed them when they were no longer useful. We knew that one day you would do the same to us. Elder Corvith, the Mach 3 leader, rose to his feet. His mandibles clicked with agitation. You are saying you expected this? You planned for this? We prepared for this, Admiral Kim Do-on replied. His voice was hard as iron. 100 years ago, humanity began a secret program. We built ships. We developed weapons. We created technology beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. And we hid it all, waiting for the day when we would need it. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. 100 years. The humans had been hiding their true power for 100 years. Engineer Han Ji-woo spoke next. His voice was quiet, but his words cut like knives. We did not hide our technology because we feared you. We hid it because we wanted to see who you really were. We wanted to know if you were worth saving. Worth saving? Voran repeated, his voice barely a whisper. Yes, Park Gina said. When the Draven came, you voted to push us aside. You called us children. You said we were too violent, too unpredictable, too dangerous to be trusted. You forgot that the same traits that make us dangerous also make us survivors. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every delegate. We could have let you fall. We could have waited until the Draven destroyed your fleets and burned your worlds. Then we could have stepped in and taken control. We would have been heroes. We would have ruled the galaxy. The delegates shifted uncomfortably. They knew she was right. If humanity had waited just a few more hours at Kethris Prime, the Council fleet would have been destroyed. The elder species would have been broken. Humanity could have done anything. But we chose differently, Park Gina continued. We chose to save you. Not because we had to. Not because we would gain anything from it. We saved you because it was the right thing to do. Captain Lee Hoonwoo stepped forward. His uniform still carried the dust of battle. We lost 11 ships at Kethris Prime, 237 human lives. They died saving people who had spat on them. They died because that is what humans do. We protect the innocent. We fight for those who cannot fight for themselves, even when they do not deserve it. Silence filled the chamber. Elder Korvath sat down slowly, his legs trembling. Liaison Mira's crystal body flickered with complex emotions. High Arbiter, Varan looked like a being who had just discovered that everything he knew was wrong. Finally, Varan stood. He walked down from his seat, past the other delegates, until he stood before Ambassador Park Gina. Then, slowly and deliberately, he lowered himself and bowed. It was a deep bow, the kind a student gives to a master. We were wrong, he said. We judged you by our fears, not your actions. We saw your history of war and thought you were monsters. We did not see that the same fire that makes you fight also makes you love. We did not see that your violence comes from passion, and passion can be turned to good as easily as evil. He looked up at her, his ancient eyes wet with tears. What would you have of us? Park Gina was silent for a long moment. She thought of all the pain. She thought of all the insults. She thought of her people who had worked in secret for a century, preparing for a day they hoped would never come. She thought of the 237 who would never go home. Then she took a deep breath and spoke. We would have your partnership, she said. True partnership. No more hierarchies. No more tests. No more elder species and young species. We are all children of the stars, and we must face the universe together. That is what we ask. That is all we ask. Elder Korvath made a sound that might have been a sob. Tears flowed from his compound eyes. You could have destroyed us, he whispered. You could have taken everything. And instead, you offer mercy. That is what humans do, Park Gina said softly. We are not defined by our worst moments. We are defined by how we rise above them. Ron straightened. He turned to face the chamber. The motion is clear, he said. From this day forward, humanity is recognized as a full and equal partner in the Galactic Council. All previous restrictions are removed. All previous votes are overturned. Let no species question this again. The vote was unanimous. 5 years passed like a dream. The galaxy changed in ways that no one had thought possible. Human technology spread to every corner of the cosmos. Shields that could stop any weapon. Engines that could cross the stars in days. Medical machines that could heal wounds that were once fatal. The species of the Council learned from humanity. Humanity learned from them. The old prejudices did not vanish overnight. There were still beings who muttered about humans when they thought no one was listening. There were still arguments and disagreements. But something fundamental had shifted. The younger species no longer sat in the back of the chamber. The elder species no longer spoke as if their words were law. The Council had become something new, something better. Admiral Kim Do-hoon now carried the title of Supreme Commander of Allied Forces. It was not a title he had asked for, but one that the Council had given him after the truth came out. Human commanders served alongside Telvori admirals. Makthari scientists worked with Earth engineers. Orithi diplomats learned human languages and customs. They had become a family, strange and mixed but united. And then the Draven returned. The message came from the edge of known space. Sensors detected a massive fleet approaching, 10 times larger than the one that had attacked Kethris Prime. 40,000 ships. Carrying enough firepower to burn the galaxy to ash, the Draven had been hurt at Kethris Prime, but they had not been defeated. They had gone home, gathered their full strength, and now they were coming to finish what they started. Admiral Kim Do-hoon stood on the bridge of the Alliance flagship, a massive vessel built from the combined knowledge of all Council species. Around him were beings from a dozen worlds, all working together as one crew. Commander Beek Suyan was at his side, as always. Her hair had gone gray at the temples, but her eyes were still sharp. "Report," the admiral said. "Our fleet is assembled," Suyan replied. 2,300 ships from all council species. All ships are equipped with human-enhanced technology. Captain Li Hunhua commands the First Strike Division. Pilot Shin Yuna leads the Ghost Wing. Engineer Han Juwu is coordinating the shield network from Station Oryx. The council leadership? High Arbiter Varan is aboard this ship, Admiral, he insisted. Kim turned to see the ancient Telvori walking onto the bridge. Varan was old, even by the standards of his long-lived species. His body was bent and his movements were slow, but his eyes still burned with determination. "High Arbiter," Kim said. "This is not necessary. You should be safe on Station Oryx with the civilians." Varan shook his head. "I spent 3 centuries watching from afar. I made decisions from the safety of council chambers, while others died for my choices. I will not make that mistake again. If our people are to fight, I will fight beside them." The Admiral nodded with respect. "Then you are welcome on my bridge, High Arbiter." The battle began at dawn, as the Draven fleet emerged from the darkness between stars. They came in waves, endless waves, their weapons blazing and their hulls dark against the void. But this time, the Alliance was ready. "All ships, engage," Admiral Kim commanded. The Alliance fleet moved forward as one. Human destroyers flew beside Telvori cruisers. Mach 3 fighters launched alongside Orothi bombers. The weapons that had once belonged only to Earth now blazed from 1,000 different ships. Dimensional shear torpedoes tore through Draven lines. Gravity lances pulled enemy formations apart. Shields linked together into walls of light that no weapon could break. Captain Li Hunwu led the First Strike Division into the heart of the enemy. His ship, the Phoenix, had been rebuilt and improved over the years. It was faster now, stronger, more deadly. Behind him flew the best pilots and crews from every species in the Alliance. "Ghostwing, cover our left flank," Li ordered. "Understood, Phoenix," came Pilot Shin Yuna's voice. Her squadron swept through the Draven fighters like a storm through leaves. She had trained pilots from every species, and now they flew as one. A perfect machine of destruction and grace. The battle raged for hours. Ships fell on both sides. Lives were lost. But the Alliance held firm. They had learned from Kethris Prime. They had trained together, bled together, grown together. They were no longer 47 separate species. They were one people, united against the darkness, and slowly, surely, the Draven began to fall. Their ships, once unstoppable, shattered under the combined fire of the Alliance. Their formations, once perfect, broke apart as their commanders died one by one. Their advance, once inevitable, became a retreat. And then the retreat became a rout. Admiral Commander Suyan reported. "The Draven are fleeing. We have tracked their home system coordinates." "Orders?" Admiral Kim looked at High Arbiter Vorin. The old Telvori met his gaze and nodded slowly. "Do not pursue," Kim said. "Instead, send them a message. Send it on all frequencies, in all languages. Make sure they understand." The message was simple. It was only 7 words. But those 7 words echoed across the galaxy and beyond, reaching ears and minds in places the Alliance had never been. Leave this galaxy. Never return. Or else, the Draven did not come back. 6 months later, Ambassador Park Gina stood in the new council chamber. It had been rebuilt after the war, larger and grander than before. The seats were arranged in a circle, all at the same level, with no species above another. Light from 100 different suns streamed through crystal windows. Mixing together into a rainbow that touched every corner of the room, Engineer Han Juwu and Dr. Yoon Murray stood beside her, watching as delegates from across the galaxy took their seats. They had all grown older, but none of them had stopped working. There was too much to do, too much to build, too much to heal. A young delegate from a newly contacted species approached them. She was small and covered in soft blue fur, with wide eyes that seemed to hold all the wonder of the universe. Her people had only just made contact with the Alliance. Everything was new to her. Ambassador Park, the young delegate, said. I have heard the stories. The stories about how your people were silenced, how the council pushed you aside, how you saved them anyway. Is it true? Park Gina smiled. It was a real smile this time, warm and kind. We were never silenced, she said. We simply chose when to speak. The young delegate tilted her head. But why did you help them? After everything they did to you? Why did you not let them fall and take their place? Park Gina looked out through the crystal windows at the stars. So many stars. So many worlds. So many lives. Because being right is not enough, she said softly. Being strong is not enough. You have to be good. And sometimes, being good means saving the people who hurt you. Not because they deserve it, but because it gives them a chance to become better. The young delegate was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded slowly, as if she had just learned something important. I think, she said, that I would like my people to be like humans. Park Gina put her hand on the young delegate's shoulder. Be like yourselves, she said. But remember this lesson. The universe is dark and cold and full of dangers. The only way to survive is together. Not as masters and servants. Not as elders and children. But as partners, as family. She looked back at the stars one last time. That is what humanity has to teach. And that is what we hope the galaxy will remember.